So we got the office, and I remember at least thinking, I know the way out of working 100-hour weeks. We got to hire some people. And the cool thing is, now we had an office. And I was like, great, we have an office space. We got furniture that we spent our investment money from our parents on. And
gosh, the mistakes we made.
And now we have some really good employee candidates. And what do? We hired Spencer. And Spencer was fantastic. And then we hired Day. And Day was fantastic. But we were still working 100-hour weeks. You know, people like, oh yeah, you grind and you get to a point and then you hire people and then you're gonna grind less because they're gonna do a lot of the work. And then, here's the thing, I love Simon Sinek. I think he's amazing. I do have a contrarian view to some of his stuff though. One of them is he has this book called Leaders Eat Last. And here's the thing, I'll be honest, I never read the book, but I've seen the title, okay? And I read the first couple chapters. And what I got out of it and what I saw as an entrepreneur is, so our people are gonna make more than us, even if that's not even that much. We're gonna live at the poverty line with our salary. I'm gonna work 100 hours a week and make the least in the company. Like that was the next phase of this. Like we're making the sacrifice. And I think a lot of people do that. And the next question then became, so when are we gonna make as much as them? When are we gonna be able to make more?
There's a group I'm a part of called Mandate that we meet once a month. And what this group is all about, it's all about accountability. And I remember the weather had just started to change, fall had just started to come in. This is 2020 again. This was September, October timeframe. And you know, all this consistent grinding, all this consistent 100-hour plus weeks at that point. And I just remember sitting in this circle in this park, Observatory Park, right next to the University of Denver, and I just
fudging,
bawling my eyes out, just bawling my eyes out, like nothing is working.
Fluffle-fudge.
Man,
it stinks.
And I'm like, something has to change. It was rough.
Yeah, I mean, when COVID first hit, we literally had our 2 best months ever of revenue. So we had $50,000 of revenue back-to-back months, but no profit. And then COVID hits and we go from 50,000 to 0 in revenue, but we still have these astronomical expenses. And I remember my first thought was, how do we keep everyone employed? And at that point, we had 2 full-time employees and like 15 part-time contractors. And I remember having like an all-hands meeting with everyone saying, hey, it's gonna be fine. And I'm like terrified because we have no cash flow. We just went to 0. And it was just this big realization of like, I'm not in college anymore. I'm not even kidding. Like that's what I thought is I'm like, wow, this is real life. And then I was like, I don't like this. Like, why the hell would I build a business where I'm living at poverty line, you're living at poverty line? How the heck are we supposed to take care of all these other people when we can't take care of ourselves? I was personally in tens of thousands of dollars of debt because not making, you know, we're talking about like we're making like 30K a year type of a thing, like personally. The business is in $150,000 of debt. And we're about to file for unemployment because we have no cash flow. The PPP's gone that the government gave us as small businesses. We have $10,000 left in our bank account and we still have employees and our monthly spend is still 20 or 25K. So I just remember we had to get rid of the employees and it's like, okay, are we either go and get jobs somewhere or we rebuild? But I remember telling you, I'm not rebuilding it the same way. If we're rebuilding the company, we're rebuilding it in a way where we're not working 100-hour weeks and we're actually getting paid something.
I remember you and I, we were sitting in the conference room, right in this room, right over here, right next door, and we wrote down all the things, right? All the things that we wanted, all the things that we didn't like. And as I was looking at all the list of all the things that we wanted, it was exciting. At the same time, there was a little bit of that, we're not gonna work 100-hour weeks.
Yeah.
We're
It was
not
like
gonna-
surprising.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because you don't know what you don't know, right?
Well, I remember like my top thing on that list was I want to be a small business. Like it was a weird thing because usually when you're an entrepreneur, you're like, oh, I want $1 billion company. And I think that puts just some crazy pressure on. So like for me, I literally remember just being like, I want to be small. Like, I don't want any employees. I don't want many contractors. Like my mindset at that point was, I literally just want a small business. We'll be consultants around e-learning. Maybe we'll build a little content, but if we make a couple $100,000 a year, that's fine. So it was like the mindset was shifting, and it was very different. And this is end of 2020, where I remember we set the goal of like, we're gonna give this 6 months because that's what unemployment was for, is we literally could get unemployment for 6 months. And during those 6 months, we were not only looking for jobs, because that's like a unemployment requirement, so you have to actively be looking for jobs. So we were doing that. We were actively looking for clients, but we were also actively trying to figure out how do we keep the business small so that we can finally make something, make some money to support ourselves and the families that we want to have before we bring other people in. And I found this guy. His name's Graham Cochran. And I watched this video called the No Friday Challenge on YouTube. And it talks about literally challenging yourself to not work Fridays. So it's this like counterculture thing of, instead of the challenge of work 100-hour weeks, it was the challenge of, I dare you not to do that. And by the way, take Fridays off too. So when I finished watching this video, I was like, I want to learn more about this guy. So I watched a couple more videos, went to his website, signed up for his free workshop. And what I learned is he started his first business in 2009. That's like when we started our first business. Literally from the beginning of being an entrepreneur, he made it a goal of his to not just not work 100-hour weeks, but like barely work a 40-hour week. And I was just like, how the heck did he do this? And then I just kept doing research, and I'm like, wow, he built $1 million business with like 1 or 2 team members.
Independent contractors
Yeah.
too, not employees, independent contractors.
Yeah, this was like the first time that I saw someone, a successful entrepreneur with $2 million a year businesses, that had a model and a story that was completely contrary to what I personally thought being an entrepreneur was. And I'm like, I want that, let's build that. So then the question was, what's next? And I remember 4-hour work week, there's this exercise that Tim Ferriss tells everyone to do, and Graham talks about this all the time too. It's like, if you only had 2 hours of work that you could do a week, then what would you do in those 2 hours? And that made it really clear of like, okay, well, we need leads, right? So in order to run a business, you gotta have leads. You gotta bring in new work. And then we need to serve those leads, and that's it. So then it was like, okay, well, what's the best way to serve tons and tons of people? And we already knew this because we've been in e-learning for 10 years. And we're like, okay, let's build an online course teaching people how to build online courses, because we're really good at that. And the great thing is we've always been really giving people, so it just made sense of like, okay, let's share our knowledge. We're gonna share it on YouTube, we're gonna share it on our blog. And it's like, whoa, we can do that and also get leads from that? And that really became the business model.
Head over to the Jonny and Hector Show playlist on YouTube to keep watching, or listen to the audio version on Apple, Spotify, or Google Podcasts.